Hi everyone, and welcome to our Smart Prompt webinar today. We launched Smart Prompt just under a month ago, and we're really excited to be sharing more about it with you all today. Um, I'm joined by James from our UX team and Brenda. So just before we go to introductions, a few housekeeping notes. We will be recording today's session, so if you want to recap or share it with any colleagues, that's absolutely fine. We'll share a link tomorrow. We also do have some time right at the end where we'll save for questions. We'll also try and keep on top of any questions that go into the chat, so feel free to add any questions to the chat. So let's get started. James, if I hand over to you for an introduction.
Sure thing. Very quickly, my name is James. I'm the head of user experience here at Smartbox. I've been working for Smartbox for nearly 11 years now, which has been very exciting and is quite a long time. And I've worked alongside one of our software development teams to deliver the Smart Prompt feature just under a month ago.
Lovely. And Brenda, if I can hand over to you for an intro.
So I'm a speech pathologist and I work with children with significant physical disabilities that use communication devices to communicate. And so I collaborated with Chris Gibbons and Smartbox during I joke, I want to say the beta version, but I think now's the beta version. So maybe I was in the alpha version. I don't know. Whatever becomes before the beta. So
Absolutely.
working with James and Chris on all kinds of nuances around what the AI in AAC tool is and what it isn't.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll start with some slides. James, I'll hand to you.
Okay, so first of all, Smart Prompt is not the first AI feature that we have released in Grid. It is now joining the Fix tool that we released around this time last year. The Fix tool being a quick command that will look to correct any spelling mistakes and grammar within within whatever is in the message box in Grid. And we also released 11 Labs at the same time last year as well, which is enabling the online AI voices from the 11 Labs company to be then used within Grid through their API. So we just wanted to highlight those just to say that one, this isn't new for us now, but also there are tools out there which you might be interested in and you want to experiment with. So yes, that is a quick intro to the AI features in Grid, but I'm here to really talk about Smart Prompts, which is really pushing ahead with that. So we released Smart Prompt roughly a month ago now. It feels like an age ago for me because we've been working for a long time to get this feature right alongside people like Brenda. But part of that release was the new commands that are available in Grid, and I'll be going into those shortly. But the number one thing which I really will also be highlighting is that we released a beta version of Text Talker, so our text communication keyboard grid set, with a lot of these new commands found inside. So there is a new AI toolbar within the beta grid set, which has a number of AI-driven tools that can be used to modify messages or extend messages, etc. And this is available for you to download right now. So we've released Grid version 102.3 or just 102, which had the Smart Prompt commands in it. And alongside that, we introduced the new version of Text Talker as a beta. So that is available for you to download right now in Grid 3 or Grid for iPad. But yes, I'm going to move on and actually demonstrate some of those features. I'm just going to make a quick note to start a timer to make sure that I stay on target for this because there's quite a lot to get through. So there is my timer. That's probably going to make a really loud sound because I haven't checked what sound that actually makes. And I will share my screen. So here we are. Text Talker AI beta. So when you first start the beta grid set, well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just pop back to Grid Explorer and I'll show you how to find it. If you go to Add Grid Sets in Grid 3, Text Communication, if you look under Text Talker Grid Sets, the AI beta is available there. So if you do want to download it and try it and have a follow along or anything like that, that's how you get it. It's in the same place in Grid for iPad as well. But anyway, let's get started. So first of all, we have a new landing page which explains some of these new AI tools. Some of them you may be familiar with from using AI on, say, your iPhone or your Android devices. But we give a quick introduction to what those are on this screen. And then if we pop to the next screen, you will be confronted with this, which is the enabling of online AI tools within Grid. Now, by default, this is off. All AI tools require you to use an online connection to work within Grid, and to use it, you need to enable this function. So if you see it with this line through like that, that means that the connection is off. And then when you want to opt in, it will ask you to confirm your age. This is an accessible message box as well. So this will scan with switches or eye gaze or whatever access method you are using, just to confirm your age. And then once agreed, the functions are all turned on. And that's necessary for the fix tool as well in Grid. Then you have your choice of keyboard. As you might know, Text Talker has a QWERTY layout, an ABC layout, or a switch frequency layout. But we've just brought this to the fore just to make sure that you know what you're getting into. So we're going to choose QWERTY. You get a little bit more information, and then you can bop on into the grid set. I'm just going to maximize it and minimize it for a second, just so my toolbar goes away there. And last of all, we have our feedback, and you will notice this in the bottom corner of the new Text Talker AI beta is a little link or a little jump to a feedback survey. And that is because, one, this is a beta, two, this involves AI, and that means that we would like to know your feedback about how you get on with these tools so we can keep improving them and adjusting them so they meet your needs. So that is that, and I'll go into that a little bit later if I get time. So let's get started. So you'll be familiar with the Text Talker layout, traditional QWERTY keyboard with prediction and chat history on the 2 rows above. We've also added in the chat switcher feature, which was added in a few versions of Grid ago, but we haven't actually added it into Text Talker. But if you haven't had a try with that, that just enables you to quickly bop between 2 versions of the message window here. And then if you say something else, and then we can quickly switch between those 2 messages. So if you are generating a lot of messages or someone gets interrupted, they can use the chat switcher to bop between those. So just like to shout that out there. Also, I know that Trevor is on the call and he championed the feature. So shout out, Trevor. Okay, so the AI tools, that's what you came here to listen about and look at. So we have 5 tools that we've included in this beta. Before I get into any of them, if you would like to know any more information about them, we've also included this little information grid so you can look up these features afterwards. I realize I'm going quite quickly for this one because there's a lot to get through, but you can always come back here and just read up a little bit about each one of those features. Now, all of these features which are on this screen have been developed using the smart prompt commands that we've added, and I will be going into those a little bit later as well to show you how they actually work and to inspire you to be able to use these commands in new and exciting ways. But first of all, let's look at what we've got here. So first of all, we have expand. Now, I've already made a quick mistake because I should have had something in my writing area to use as an example. So let's add in more coffee because I clearly need it. And then when you hit expand, this prompts our AI tool to generate longer phrases from a number of keywords that the user enters. So if the user enters more coffee, then we can go into longer messages such as I could really use more coffee right now. And then we can continue to modify that and make it longer, shorter, or give it another go if none of these are suitable. Now, what you will notice is that it creates choices for the end user, and the user can then select the one which they would like to add into the message box. It will not speak immediately, but then if the user then chooses to speak, then it will announce the utterance in whatever speaking voice they have set up. But that means they can also go across to other tools such as adjust. Now, the adjust tools also, these are all smart prompt commands which have been layered here. So we can make this into a question. We can continue it to be a statement. That probably wouldn't impact this one right now. We can make it past tense, future tense. These are all very familiar to people who have used writing tools on, say, the iPhone, iPad, or within Word now as well, I saw. You can change the tone as well. You can make it more casual, more professional. You can make it happy, sad, jokey, angry. So it takes this expression and then we can make a quick adjustment to it. Again, we make quick adjustments and then we give the user the choice of which message they would like to read out. Now, a little bit of background to these is that when we were doing our initial research for our AI projects, one of the things which we've been really focusing on is the speed of generating meaningful utterances. So you can see that within a small number of activations on the keyboard and then a few AI commands can greatly increase the length of the utterance, but also allows the user to adjust these to how they may want to say that. So very useful for quick fire messages, but also changing things around as well and actually getting into the editing, because as we know, editing can be quite difficult when you're using an AAC device and the number of commands that are available. On to the next example, though, we also have translation. Now, the AI tools that we use behind the scenes, so just to let you know and be completely transparent, we use an OpenAI connection behind the scenes, which is basically anonymous from our point of view and the end user's point of view. But one of the benefits of large language models when you're interacting with them is that they are actually very good at translation and changing messages from one language to another. They can bring in quite a lot of nuance that Google Translate may not be able to bring in. And I'm really hoping that that's actually right on my screen right now, because I actually don't speak French, but I have been told by our colleagues over in Europe that our translation features have greatly improved, seeing as they are now embedded in the grid set and are available at the click of a button, thanks to Smart Prompt. I'm going to change this back into English quickly, and that will probably also validate whether or not that was, there we go, that's pretty good, it stayed the same. But I would also like to quickly demonstrate the similar words. So similar words is actually one of the most complex interactions of Smart Prompt we have, and I might be able to get behind the scenes while after I finish demonstrating it, just to show you how this command has been made and how we make sure that it is reliable. But similar words basically acts as a thesaurus for the last word that the user has entered. So we've got moment in there right now. If I choose similar words, it has now given me, basically it's acted like a thesaurus, and it says, okay, this instant, this occasion, this time, this period, and I actually can't see the last word because all of your faces are right there. Okay, interval, I'm going to guess it's interval. Anyway, you can see here that the AI has suggested relevant words that could fit in that place, and the user just has to select one of them. Let's choose occasion, seeing as this is a webinar, it is quite an occasion. And that is similar words. So you can use it to look up words and then change them to similar words of that meaning. And again, that's powered by the Smart Prompt command that we're talking about today. Finally, we have a prompt called My Prompts. This one acts a little bit differently. And because we're utilizing Grid, and if any of you are familiar with editing Grid, you'll know that sometimes if you have something that is blank, that means that you can use whatever is in the writing area to then interact with that thing. Now, that is precisely what we're doing with Smart Prompt here. This single response and multiple responses cells actually don't have anything but a blank Smart Prompt within them. And that means that the writing area is then sent as the entire prompt itself, which means that we've basically enabled a user accessible way to create a prompt, and then using a word list, we've added remove and add cells so that the user can create their own prompt and experiment with Smart Prompt without needing to go into edit mode and then find things that they might want to do. We've provided a few little examples here, such as tell me an unusual fact about. If I just clear this and pop there, and then if I hit keyboard, and then let's say cats, hit single response, we get a fact about cats. Now, you probably don't need your AI tools to be telling you facts about cats. Everyone should know about cats. But this just gives the user an example and a way to get a feel for how this tool actually works. So how does it work? That is next on my list. And if I'm just checking my time very quickly, I have 10 minutes to tell you about how this all works behind the scenes. And anyone who has used grid edit mode should be familiar with what I'm going to show you, but I'm going to assume that you're all new to this as well. So in grid, every grid set is powered by a set of commands, and you can get in and see what those all look like behind the scenes by going into edit mode. Within edit mode, you can break apart a whole grid set. You can see how they're constructed, and Smart Prompt has been designed around being deconstructed and enabling you to be creative and choose what you want these tools to actually do. So you can see here, I am in edit mode now, and these prompts, like this expand one, this little symbol just here just tells me that this is a live cell which has the Smart Prompt command on there. And then I can see the list of commands that are actually behind that cell, including the Smart Prompt. So as a simple example, let's change one of these. Let's have a look at maybe the translation tool didn't go into a language that you were expecting, or there's a language that someone speaks that you want to try and create a translation tool for. So I'm just going to follow the jump to where all of the smart prompts that do the translation, and you can see them all here. And then let's go in and edit one of these. Now, I thought I would think of a language while I was speaking. I haven't. Let's have a quick think of what I'm going to translate this into. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to try Welsh. Going slightly off script as well, which I probably shouldn't do. But let's try Welsh. So you can see here that we have the smart prompt command here. We've got the little symbol just giving us that clue. And then we can see the different areas of the smart prompt command here. So you've got the prompt itself, which we can jump in and edit. And this is simply a blank text field, which is the instruction to the AI tool. So whatever you write in here becomes the instruction. So currently it reads, translate the following text into French, and it has a few qualifiers. These qualifiers are actually really important because if you have used an AI chatbot like ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude or any of those things, it's not just about what you're asking it to do. It's also framing it around making sure that it won't do something else, or give it a few qualifiers to ensure that the output that you are expecting makes sense. But here is the keyword for me, which says French. I'm going to write Welsh in there. I'm going to spell it correctly as well. There we go, translate the following into Welsh. So I've just changed a single word within there. And then just to give me a clue that I have done that, I'm just going to add the flag and change the label. And that should be about it. I've saved my prompts. I can see that the response is going to the writing area, not any response cells, which I'll get into in a moment. But let's finish editing and see how that does. And let's just go ahead and use this sentence that's in the chat writing area there. There we go, and it's given it a good old go to get that into Welsh. I hope there's a Welsh speaker on there who can confirm that, but I will get someone later to also do that. So I'll just take a quick screenshot and make sure that that's all good. Perfect. Okay, so that is just making an edit, but what if you want to take one of these prompts and you say, hey, that one which translates into German, that one that translates into Welsh, or those expansion ones would be really useful in a grid set of my own. And I'd like to just quickly show you how we would do that as well. So let's go back into Edit Grid and let's choose one of these commands. And let's go with, say, the expansion one, because we do need to make a few more changes to get this one to work correctly in another grid set. So I'm going to copy that cell. And you can see it's got a jump on it as well, but I'm just going to copy it for now. So I'm hitting copy just to make sure. Pop back to Grid Explorer, and let's go into Fast Talker, for instance. Go into chat. Now, Fast Talker is fixed to a 6 by 10 cell count grid, so there's not actually very much room on here. I'm just going to make a bit of space. I'm going to paste our expand command in and make sure that you can see it correctly. Looking for color there. So now we've got our expand tool, but also it's jumping to a grid that doesn't exist. Okay, well, what do we do about that? In this example, let's just take that jump off. So it's no longer going to another grid set, but we do want to make sure that it has those response cells. So it's not just acting on the chat writing area. And as I said, the prompt acts on well, it sends the prompt and then it sends the chat writing area. And then it will give you an output that goes to response cells. So wouldn't recommend doing this long term, but let's just get rid of these prediction cells for now. And now let's paste in some response cells. So I'm going to go to create cell, go to chat and writing, and under chat and writing are our online AI tools. And you can see here that I've got the enable command that we saw earlier. We've got the fix tool, the classic from last year, and we have smart prompt, smart response, and more responses. And we also have a clear smart responses commands. And those are all the new commands that we've added for the smart prompt. But I'm interested in this one, smart response. And let's just add in 4 of those. And then let's just check on the command itself how many responses I'm asking our AI for. We're asking for 4. You can adjust that. You can adjust that up to 50 if you like. And then on the response cells, on activation, I'm choosing between either add to writing area, which appends whatever is in the response cell to the end of the writing area and doesn't overwrite it. But in this case, I want to replace the writing area. So I have added that and made sure that that is set on the response cell. I'm going to bot back to finish editing there. And now I've copied across the command and we've got these blank areas. Let's try the same example again. Hit expand. And now I have the responses within these cells here. So there we go. Can you bring me more copy, please? It is required. Excellent. Okay, so that is adding a command and changing them a little bit. But how do you start from scratch now? I have a couple of minutes just to show you that and how we would go about it. So let's stay working in this grid set and just say edit grid. I'm going to actually completely delete this command here. So now I have no smart prompt on this grid set. If I create a cell, we go back to where our online AI tools are. There's my smart prompt command. And now I've added a blank smart prompt to this grid set. I can edit it. And this is where we get into our creativity. What do we want this tool, which we have now added into grid, to do? Remembering that it will send this prompt and then whatever is in the chat writing area. So we can say, for example, give me words that rhyme with. Then I'm going to put a semicolon there. Say OK. And then I say send response to. I could send it directly into the writing area if I want to, or I can send it to the response cells. And then again here, I've got 4 response cells on my screen. So I'm just going to set that to 4. Finish editing. Yes. Let's clear this out. Toffee. Run the smart prompt command, and there we go. Coffee is the number 1. Not that I'm obsessed in any way, but we also have a number of other words that will rhyme with that. Now that's a really, really short prompt. You can get far more complex. And if I bot all the way back to our text talker AI beta, go into the AI tools and say, let's see what that similar words one was looking like. So if I edit this grid and have a look at what's going on under this similar words, you can see a whole chain of commands under here. So we do a jump, there's my alarm, it's going off. We do a jump, we do a copy, we do a previous word, we could do select text, we do start of text, and then we do backspace. And now, if you start thinking about what is actually happening to the manipulation of the chat writing area with that, you can probably tell what's actually going on. We've just taken a copy of the writing area, then we've gone back a word and cleared the rest of the sentence. Then we run our smart prompt, which underneath it has quite a hefty prompt, but it's all quite clear instructions for our AI tool. Then once that runs, it then clears the entire chat writing area with this final clear command and pastes in the previous writing area. So that's probably quite hard to follow if you don't really know how Grid edits, but it's actually all a series of very one by one operations that you might do on a keyboard, for instance, to have a certain effect. We've just placed the AI tool in the middle of that, and that is how we get it to be very reliable at finding the last word and sending that, giving me those synonyms for that word, and then heading back and pasting your original sentence in so you can make that choice. Right, that's all good in theory. And this is my great opportunity to say, well, why do you want to use smart prompt? Why did we make it so that the smart prompt is easily adjustable and editable? And also, why is it just in Text Talker? Why are we just releasing this as an example? Well, it's because of working alongside people like Brenda. So in practice, I'm going to hand over to Brenda now, who is going to tell you a few stories and give some examples of actually using smart prompts alongside AAC users. So I'll stop my sharing.
Okay, so I am so excited. So I learn every time I listen to James, even though I've been using this now for a hot minute. But I want to tell you about the way I've been using it, mostly with students at this high school level, but I also work with adults, and I will give you one example of how I use this with children even a little bit younger than high school. So let's see, can we move to the next slide? Or okay, so I have a person who this is a boy that is 7 years old. And so he's in school, and I don't know if in case you don't know, the AI within Grid is asking to confirm that you are either over 13 or that you are with a person who it is able to say that you're able to use this as an adult. So for him, his parents have authorized that we use this under education for educational purposes, and the team has been trained. So he is a person who has CVI and has seizures and has some hearing issues. He could be maybe even diagnosed as deafblind in that way. But he is a person whose personality is all about jokes. All he wants is jokes. So when I get to the school to train the school, they say, we just need a joke page. And for those of you who've done AAC with any children and want a joke page, the joke page is only fun for the first few days, because then they've all heard the jokes, they're all done feigning interest in the jokes, and the jokes are not necessarily ever relevant. But what happens then is he is disinterested. He's messing around. He doesn't want to participate because doesn't have the language to be the funny guy in the conversations. So I said, what are you learning about right now in school? And it was polar bears. And I said, okay, so let's use the AI feature to prompt my prompt that says, tell me a joke about. And then we added the polar bears at the end, and 4 jokes come up. And this was so exciting to the team because they don't have to program. He can tell a joke, which is matching his voice, his personality. The only way he wants to show up to conversations is to be the funny guy, the class clown, if you will. And now he's relevant. Now he's telling a joke about polar bears. it's so interesting. I've been lately thinking about how the humans around our AAC users are definitely thought partners, right? They have joint lived experiences, and they have emotion, and they have bias, and but they don't always have all the ideas. Sometimes I think about the AI prompts as being the idea partner, because none of us have polar bear jokes on the tip of our tongues, and all of us would have to use some form of probably AI to go, hey, what's a joke about, right? So, and in that sense, this is just giving him access to what everyone else, what all the adults around him have access to. And so now he is able to we were able to tap into his personality to use the tell me a joke about piece. And he is so excited. He is awake. He is alert. He's not faking sleeping. He's not being disinterested. He's not being loud and obnoxious. He cannot wait to get to the end of the lesson and know that he's going to be able to tell jokes about what's something that's really relevant. And this also makes him relevant to and a communication partner for other kids that are in typical classrooms. In the States, we have a lot of inclusion. And so um, the all kids are interested in what joke Asher might have to say at the end of a lesson. So it was a super fun way to use the My Prompt. I move to the next one. Okay. So Trinity is a girl that I've been working with now for a year or so, and she is someone who has used the various prompts in lots of ways. So one of the ways she used it is, I think I had mentioned this before, is that she was she was writing a Mother's Day card and she said, "My mom is loud." And then we had the reword and expand um, feature that James showed, and it gave lots of reasons why moms can be loud. So one of the reasons why mom can be loud is that she's angry. Another one is because none of the kids are listening. Another one's because she's at the soccer field or football or whatever you guys call it. And then, you know, another one was something that said, my mom's loud is boisterous, and when she enters the room, everyone knows she's there. And she really, really liked that one. What she realized in that idea partnership with AI is that when I say mom is loud, it can be interpreted in so many different ways. And so it was a great opportunity for her to realize that language, being more specific with her language is required, or people may interpret that differently. And so when boisterous came up, then I said, well, I wonder if we know what boisterous means. We don't want to use words we don't mean. And by the way, that applies to all people using any AI feature. But I thought, okay, let's do similar words for boisterous. And it came up with a whole bunch of ideas. And she ended up choosing boisterous. She was like, this is a new word for me, but I love it. It actually does describe my mom better than all the other words. And so we ended up going, okay, let's figure out a way for you to know how to add a word in your device. And so and I think it's SuperCore 50, there's a way for you to go from your message window, say add phrase, the next button that you hit, the phrase in the message window goes into a button. And so she is now able to program her own device with generated phrases and sentences, or in this case, just a single word that she now wants in her device. First time ever, she's actually putting a word in her device that she has discovered. And it definitely is creating more authentic authorship. But in her case also, she's a person with CP. When she gets anxious, she gets high tone and she arches her back, and her eye gaze then is out of the range of her device. So she needs to advocate for herself pretty quickly when things begin to escalate or her body doesn't want to cooperate with her eye gaze. So Her spastic CP means that sometimes her hands grab herself or others and scratch. And so sometimes comes in off the bus with scratches on her arms, on her neck that she has self-inflicted. And if she could control that, she would, but she can't. So she comes into school and she looks at the teachers and expects them to read her mind. And the minute they don't read her mind, things escalate more with anxiety. So, we talked through what did she do. So she is very good. She's on Supercore 50, and no, she's on Word Power 60. She's on Word Power 60, and she went and said, what did she say? Need socks, hand scratching. So this is a person who knows exactly what she needs, is able to write words, locate them, navigate, conjugate verbs, all of that. But still, in the effort of getting her message across in a timely manner, there's brevity, right? There's just core words in the sentence. And oftentimes that not only makes her feel like her message isn't reflecting the intellect in her brain, and it makes her peers think that she thinks in this very our kind of caveman way of talking, right? Because she didn't say, I need, can I have. So when she wrote the basic words in there, need, socks, hand, scratching, it came with, I need some socks because my hand is scratching. I really need socks. My hands keep scratching. I need to get my socks since my hands are scratching. I definitely need socks because my hand is scratching right now. The thing is, I didn't know if AI was going to understand that you would need socks for your hands, right? Because that's not what normally we think about. But it did a really, really nice job. And so again, she found the one she wanted. She went into the device. She added her under my phrases because she wants this to be a one hit from moving forward. And so it was a really great example of how she can be her own self advocate with the words that she knows all people will understand. And this reword and expand was a really, really great feature for that. Let's see. Let's move on. Okay, so yes, I was wondering how you guys were going to do this. Okay, let me see what you did. I see what you did there. Okay. So Lucas is a 43-year-old gentleman who lives in a group home, and he is a person who really enjoys Hooters. I had to ask James and Hannah if you guys even have Hooters in other countries. I didn't even know we still had them in the United States, but anyways, we do, and there's one here in Arizona, so yay me. But he is a big fan of going to Hooters. So he's also a wildly sarcastic person. And so what we found is that he said, I want to go to Hooters. He's on VocaChat 15. His vision is very, very poor. His intellect is high, but the vision prevents him from converging on buttons a whole lot smaller than what's on VocaChat 15. So he said, I want to go to Hooters. And then on the adjust, you can pick your personality a little bit. I say this in a happy way, angry, jokey, um, something else, and sarcastic. I can't remember what they all are. But he put sarcastic. And so it says, oh, sure, because that's a totally classy place to eat. And right, because nothing says fine dining like Hooters. And he's cracking up. He's loving this. This is a 43-year-old man who has never successfully used communication device. He has received them, has not used them. The box of words is not meeting his need, doesn't match his personality. And now he is all over it. Every day he needs a device. Every day he's cracking jokes. It's super funny. So I do know that the jokey and the sarcastic are the two most commonly used for me and the people I use with under the adjust. But I love that there's happy, sad, angry, maybe, James. I can't remember what the other ones are. But it allows you to say things with more inflection, because and it's not nuanced inflection necessarily in the voice, but in the words. The words change a little bit if you're happy versus if you're sad versus if you're angry, and definitely sarcastic. But the thing that happens when that my AAC users are using the jokey or the sarcastic is everybody gets involved. Everybody's looking directly at the AAC user and not at the communication partner or their aide, because he just said a really funny thing that was wildly unexpected. This man is also a huge jokester. Like, all he wants to do is play pranks on people. And he wants to have like the snake on the ground and then secretly hit the button that makes it rattle. We're in Arizona, so rattlesnake is kind of on brand and scare everybody. And so um, he wants to, be the one that provides the shock and awe to his communication partners. So the adjust feature that allows that personality to come through is something that I think that we need to continue to explore. And it's a great teaching tool as a speech pathologist on how language changes based on your emotion or mood. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I think we do a lot of I need and I want, and we create these little dictators. And if they get what they want and they need, we consider that successful AAC users. But the reality is the bar needs to be way higher. The bar needs to be that they express the human that they are in all forms, in all ways, in all moods. And it's not a need-based, it's not a giant choice-making machine. This is who I am, my personality, and the only way that you get to know my purpose. So it's been a really, really neat tool, the Adjust. Having said all that, the other thing he likes to do is he does not have the motor skills to give the middle finger, but that is his favorite thing, and he does enjoy the F word a lot. So when I first got him the device, and he was able to navigate like 5 pages to find the swear words. And I will address the question that just popped up in the chat. He doesn't read, but he's in VocoChat, so he gets all the way over to the swear words and goes through them all, figures out which one says the one he wants, and then remembers the location. When I'm using the AI tools, though, and we talked about this, everything that the my prompts, and I'll come back to that, you can make each one of these speak. My hopes and dreams is that at some point there'll be a little button that goes to a Bluetooth or something that makes it speak into their ear, and if then they have to hit it in another way for it to actually speak out loud, but we haven't gotten there yet because that's more of an auditory preview piece. As the communication partner, I will often either tell them to look at them or I will read their choices to them. Under the My Prompts, once you make a selection, all the rest of the choices go away. So I have manipulated the grids so that they don't go away. So they get to hear each choice and then make a final choice on which one they like the best. Sometimes they like the first part of one and the last part of another. And so we make our own sentence at the end of it all. They like the first part of one and a different part of another. And so I'm not asking my AAC users to just pick their favorite. I'm saying, do you like any part of this? Do you like any part of this? And we end up coming up with something that's kind of original, and because it's a little bit of everything or a little bit of a few of them, which is how, as a communication partner, I'm helping preserve their voice by not making them pick one of these choices or saying none of these. They get to have there's a lot of nuance there. But as I'm working with them and they are not literate, that's how I'm supporting them. The other thing is that I'm okay. I like that a lot of these prompts are embedded best in an alphabet or a QWERTY page, because my students are constantly being exposed to the value of text and reading and the keyboard. Some of our AAC users are never exposed to the keyboard. It's something that we've abandoned in their education at some point, and we need to bring it back. And now they're realizing how critical it is to, in fact, stick with the curriculum around teaching all of our AAC users to read, to be able to understand first letters so that word prediction words come up that matter, have sight word recognition skills, all of those early emergent reading skills that are required for this. So I digressed a little just to answer that one question, but there is a middle finger in the emojis, and he also found that. So he had found the F word, and he had also found the emoji middle finger, which was exciting for everyone. But so when we got over to him talking about things, right? I want to go to so he wants to go to Hooters. And so we realized that he wanted the phrases that he says to be more expletive. And so we said, I want to go to Hooters, reword and expand using swear words. So on the reword and expand, we copy the button, we paste it into another cell next to the word expand. We go into the smart prompt where James went and where he changed it to Welsh. And I say reword and expand using swear words or using I think I just said using swear words just to see if it would know what that was. I don't even think I had to explicitly like list them all. It knew what that was. So these come up, and I think we've kind of blacked them out a little bit just for anybody that's sensitive. And I think there was one that didn't actually have a swear word in it. It just was a little bit racy. And so if you can see them in there, um, it says, I really want to blank and go to Hooters, right? And then I need to get my blank to Hooters, right? Those wings are blank and it's always a good time. He's dying, he's laughing. And what I loved about it is he's in an adult group home where he gets to express his personality, and he is telling me that this is his voice inside his head. Every couple words is one of these words. This is the environment he grew up in, which we didn't know. This is the way he thinks about the world, and this is the way he wants to communicate. Now, the people who run the group home were like, okay, but when grandma and when my grandkids come, you can't talk like that. You can't potty talk around them. They're 5 and they're 7, and you can't potty talk. And if you potty talk, you're going to have to go to your room because you don't get to talk like that around children. And I love that because it was kind of like that. I'm going to hold you accountable to all adults in the room around children, is that you don't get to swear around my children that way, my grandchildren that way. And he was held accountable to that. And so he can use reword and expand when he wants to be appropriate, and he can use reword and expand with swear words when the audience calls for that. So it was just one of those things where he has 43 years old, and we had a moment where I really feel like for the very first time, people saw exactly who he was, and he was able to use the voice and the vocabulary that other people had been gatekeeping for him for so long. And it comes back to an article, and I don't know if it's out, Hannah, but I wrote that about gatekeeping versus gate opening, which is really our role in communication partners. Is we need to recognize ourselves as someone who's opening the gates to all the possibilities of the ways things can be said and the meanings behind all that, as opposed to saying this is the box of words that we've decided are core, or that research shows are the most commonly used words, yada yada yada. Because honestly, we've talked about this many times. We talk about core words in the world of speech pathology, and that's because 80% of the words that we use are core. They're these words that are commonly used in all sentences. But in my opinion, core words are what matters to you. So if the only thing that really floats your boat is vacuum cleaners, then vacuum cleaners is actually a core word for you. And it doesn't need to be 5 layers into your device. And if the F word's a core word to you, It also doesn't need to be 5 layers in. It certainly shouldn't be blocked. And it needs to be embedded in vocabulary, in sentence structure, the way that best matches your thought and your inside voice, and not what we believe to be the correct inside voice. So I think it's really important that we stop as professionals and say, am I supporting their authentic voice in this scenario? Or am I imposing basic language to meet basic needs, thinking that we've got to start somewhere? But the reality is that's very short-sighted, and it's not very exciting. Most device users don't identify that their device matches their voice because it is so rudimentary in that way. So I feel like the AI features in AAC not only is cheating or puts words in their mouth, and in fact, it's the opposite. We're finally hearing the words they've been wanting to say all along. I want to be sure we have leave time for questions. So do I have more slides? I don't think I do. This is it.
That was it, Brenda, from your slides. Thanks so much for sharing those examples. It really brings it to life and shows how flexible Smart Prompt can be. We just had a few last slides from James, just covering off a few last little details, and then hopefully we should have time, a couple of minutes left at least, for some questions.
Yeah, and I just really want to, you probably got a feel for how inspiring listening to Brenda is, because having Brenda testing these the tools out was incredible to work alongside, and also inspired us to really see these as tools that should go into the hands of everybody. So as therapists, as family members, as AAC users, having access to a tool to make new tools, to manipulate text in a way that fits and helps express what someone is trying to say is amazing. And it does more than that as well. So we wanted to create tools that were for users who understand a little bit about edit mode and a bit about how we make grids and things like that. But once you scratch the surface of it, can give you endless possibilities. So that's why we released it now as well. Like, it's out there, it's for you to experiment with, to chop about with, take what we have created in Text Talker and what Brenda's explained as well, and make new things using grid that fit your needs. And I think that that's one of the real strengths of this. So it's about personalization. It's about making AAC fit one. We often say one size fits one when it comes to AAC, and that is precisely what Smart Prompt does. If you're looking for inspiration, lots of people are turning to ChatGPT and things for inspiration, or for new ways to say similar things that they might feel like they're repeating themselves again and again. And this enables that again as well. So yes, that is basically what this slide says. You might have noticed the age restrictions on there, and Brenda did also mention the usage around children and young adults as well within there. And because of the usage of AI, we do recommend that it is not used for anyone below the age of 13 and requires consent to use, because it is an online service that you are using. We do our best to make sure that everything remains anonymous when we use our connection service. While it does use OpenAI, again, we have a service in the middle of it which anonymizes any information going across. However, you might not want to send exactly names and addresses and social security numbers through to it. Probably shouldn't be doing that anyway. So just make sure that you are aware of those things. So is there another slide here? There we go. I knew there was another one. I'd forgotten about it. So if you do want to read a bit more about how we approach AI and how this reflects part of our approach to AI, you can go onto our website, thinksmartbox.com. I think it's still that. And if if you go there and you can look up our AI ethics policy about how we approach AI, and Smart Prompt follows that. You decide exactly what the AI does. You don't have to use these tools if you don't want to, or you can modify these tools to work in a way that you would like them to work, and how the user would like them to work. The data stays yours. We do not train, and OpenAI does not train off any information that is going across backwards and forwards. And that means that you can be safe in the knowledge that any of the information that is going backwards and forwards between your device and the internet is safe and secure. We also have a human in the loop policy here at Smartbox, and that means that you can never automatically speak anything that comes out of Smart Prompt or Fixed Tool for that matter as well. And this means that anything going into the chat writing area must be reviewed by the user before it is spoken. There are ways of previewing text using, I've completely gone blank on the name, but the auditory feedback features within Grid to preview the things before they go into the writing area, but the voice itself will not speak with that unless there is an action for the user to speak the words. Okay. I think
But the only way to preview is if you have the whole device set on preview, right? Not, you can't just preview one page. Yes. Okay.
That's right.
All right. Hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams. Noting down the feature request as we speak. Finally, just to give you that reminder, is that make sure that you've got the latest version of Grid. We always recommend that for safety and security updates and bug fixes, but as well as the additional features that we add into Grid, both on Grid 3 and Grid for iPad. So version 102 is the one which has introduced Smart Prompt. We released it about a month ago. Run Smartbox update and you should be away with the tools. And I did show you earlier where to find the Text Talker AI beta. Just pop into Add Grid Set in the menu, then go to Text Communication, and then select Text Talker, and you can see the beta there. It is available only in English at the moment. I did see a question. However, we are working on translations, and the tools themselves actually will work in nearly every language that Grid supports. So you can get started if you are feeling creative and non-English speaking. Perfect. Do we have any time for questions, Hannah?
We've kind of run out of time. We have a few minutes left, but Trevor has done an amazing job of answering as many as he can in the chat. I think most of them have been answered. Let's see if we've got one that we can just cover right at the end here. I think this is just recapping on that personal information being shared. So if personal information is in the chat writing area, is that information public when used in a prompt?
No, it's not public, but it may become public if you choose to share that grid set using, say, something like online grids. So do be aware about placing any personalization in a grid that you may want to share online. You will have to take that information out because we do not check for that information when you are sharing. You are giving the option to consent into it. So yes, basically, if you put personal information in there and then choose to share the grid set publicly, then it will be shared publicly. So do be mindful of what you place into the prompt and what you are doing with your grid sets. You can encrypt backups now within Grid. That was a feature we added a little while ago. So if you do need to move content between Grid devices or between users, you can encrypt those backups, which will then encrypt the data, but do not share them via online grids or leave them on a USB memory stick on a train or something.
Great, thank you. Another question, is the LLM model going to be updated, or is it only trained up until 2 years ago?
So in answer to that, we will keep we built a service that basically acts as an intermediary between Grid and the LLM model that we are using. And that means that we actually do continually evaluate new models on the market, or even models that can potentially run on devices for additional privacy. And we continue to monitor new models. So when a model comes along or a model is depreciated, we can be ready to switch that model over on our online side, which means that for the end user, you will not notice a change, but we can update to a new model. We don't have any plans to update it just yet. We're happy with the stability of everything right now, despite the information being 2 years old. Don't ask it what the weather is like today. However, we do have the possibility of updating that and continually maintaining these features for a long time.
Okay, thank you. Let's do one more question. Then what we'll do is try and answer more in the chat after the call has ended. We've got a question from someone who's using Smart Prompt, but it seems to work backwards. So, for example, if they type more coffee and then click Smart Prompt, it gives phrases like, sure, would you like to try a different blend, or keep it classic?
Okay, that sounds like a little bit of prompt engineering is necessary. So if you write more coffee and then you do not add any additional things into that prompt, particularly from that My Prompts screen, it is simply asking the LLM more coffee, and the LLM will try to answer the question. We try to tone down the amount it acts as a chatbot. It is not a chatbot, it is a tool, but it will try to answer those questions. So in the prompt, if you bop into, say, the expand command within Text Talker and then open it out in edit mode, you'll be able to actually see that that is a few paragraphs of prompting going on that actually gives it enough context to create that keyword expansion model. So I would suggest bopping into edit mode. I've got to stop saying bopping into things. I don't know why I say that all the time now. But if you go into edit mode and explore what is behind that expand prompt, then you will see a lot more context, which you may have to give within your prompt before you get that expansion.
Because actually, like, I remember talking to James about this because when my girl said mom is loud, the AI came back and said, how do you feel about mom being loud? Like it's basically trying to have a conversation with her as opposed to doing what we wanted it to do. And so it is all about what the prompt is saying. So if there's not enough in the prompt, it's gonna wing it. And so, yeah, take a peek at what's inside the prompt, and that will alter the responses.
Exactly, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we will bring it to a close there. We've run over slightly. Thank you so much, James and Brenda. That was brilliant. Great to hear from you. As I said, a recording's going to be shared tomorrow. We'll do our best to answer those final questions in the chat. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Many thanks. See you soon.